get started. Because if you know of anyone who has a child, wants a child, um, is responsible for a child in any shape, form, or fashion, or if you know anybody who's in a family, has a mother, has a father, has a sister, has a brother, like this message will serve them to some capacity. So we're going to jump right in. There are children, right, in the world, right? I mean, that's how the population keeps going. And as a child, right, we as human beings, we are completely and utterly at the mercy of our caregiver, whether it's the mother, the father, the grandparent, whomever. Children can't fend for themselves when they first come out. And it's totally different from like in the animal kingdom where animals come out, they can walk, like they can eat, like they only need like a little guidance, the guardrails to do whatever it is that they need to do, but they come out already developed to do that. And as a child, we kind of grow into that. The parent nurses us, nurses the child, and carries the child until the child can walk, and the child is at the utter mercy of that caregiver. They're watching so closely because they're looking at this entity. They fall in love with this entity because this entity, the parent, the mother, the father, the caregiver, grandparent, whoever, has taken care. They have to look to this caregiver as someone who I need for you to help me, or I'm not gonna live, I'm not gonna survive. And as a child, I was sexually assaulted. And it happened by someone who was very close to me. And the truth of the matter is, I didn't tell anybody. And the reason why is because I didn't know how to tell someone. I thought I did something wrong. Like I thought it was me. It was like I was bad in some kind of way. And I didn't want to tell my parents because I didn't want to get into trouble. And here is the kicker, because it happened with somebody who the family knew. I didn't want to get them in trouble, or I didn't want them to hurt me, right? So not necessarily I didn't want them to get in trouble. I didn't want to get hurt by them. Like I was like, I made it through that situation. I don't have to go back, right? But the question is, how would a little girl, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I was 8 at the time, how would a little girl come to believe that she could not trust or felt comfortable enough with her parents or any adult with that kind of information? Well, the truth of the matter is 73% of child victims don't tell anyone about the abuse for at least a year. 73%. 45% of victims don't tell anyone for at least 5 years. Some of these victims never disclose this information. You gotta look at it like me. This happened almost 40 years ago for me. And I don't think anybody really knew about this. Maybe I've talked about it in a very intimate conversation. I know I was a part of a group of people, and there were like maybe 20 women. We were chatting, and that subject came up. And when I tell you 90% of the women said that they were sexually assaulted as a kid, it was mind blowing just to know that most women or girls that I know of have been sexually abused or assaulted in some shape, form, or fashion. And I wanted to share this for two reasons. One, because sexual abuse is real, and I want to make sure that people are out there protecting their children. I have three daughters. I also have a son, but I have three daughters. And when I tell you, I'm very protective and I don't let them go too many places. And when I do, there's a whole conversation that we're having. But it was a conversation that was had before I let them leave the house. And this is where I get to the root of don't let anyone rape your children, including yourself. Because there's another level of abuse that's happening in our society, and most of us are not aware of it. Now, it may not be as repulsive as a sexual assault of a child, but the impact of this abuse or this neglect is no different, and it has the same level of impact. And it's an acronym that I created that I use, which is called RAPE. And I know that may be like highlight, but it is exactly what we as parents, aunties, uncles, mothers, fathers, grandparents, it's exactly what we're doing. And when I say RAPE, the acronym that stands for is repeating the activities or the attitudes the parent or the provider experience. That's what we're doing. We're raping the next generation. We're repeating the attitudes and the activities that the parent or the provider, right, experience. So Murray Bowen actually talks about family systems. Now, Murray Bowen is actually, he was an American psychiatrist. He was actually a professor of psychiatry at Georgetown University. Bowen was the pioneer of family therapy, but he was also noted as a founder of systematic therapy. And according to Bowen, the nuclear family is an emotional system. So I'm going to go back to the question that I posed before. How is it that a child, an 8-year-old, doesn't feel safe or secure or confident enough to share the information that they were sexually assaulted? According to Murray Bowen, the nuclear family is an emotional system. And whatever affects one person in that system affects everyone in that system, right? So it's a system. And we repeat what we were exposed to, right? If you grew up in a family where they whooped the child because they did something wrong, guess what you're going to do as a parent? Unless you get some kind of training or you consciously choose to make a different choice. Again, we're going down CODA, right? If you just unconsciously raise your children the way that you were raised, you're going to do exactly what your parents did. You're raping your children. You're repeating the activities and the attitudes the parent or the provider experienced. So how do we shift that? Well, y'all see all my books, right? They're not here for decoration. Like, I read the books. I've either had to do some kind of research, some kind of dissertation, some kind of thesis, some kind of paper on all of these books. Like, they're not here for decoration. So if you want to know more about Murray Bowen and family systems, Roberta Gilbert, who's actually an MD, wrote a book called The 8 Concepts of Bowen Theory. And it goes over all of the major 8 systems that Murray Bowen actually teaches or created or did a lot of research on. And when you talk about the family as an emotional system, you got to look at the example in your family. Like, say, for example, somebody came home late or they broke one of the family rules, but whatever the family rule was, everybody knows it's a family rule, but they still broke it, right? So when the addressing of that individual comes, would you agree that there's a little bit of anxiety going on in the family? Because based on how your family system goes, they could get yelled at, they could have a conversation, they could get punished, they could, like, you fill in the blank, but it's your system, your family system that goes into play. But the person that broke the family rule was the one that the energy was focused on, but that individual, that experience impacted the entire family. So there's another book that I've read before. It's by D.W. Winnicott, the child, the family, and the outside world. And here we talk about the standards and your standards as a parent, right? So this is one thing. Remember, I'm only 20, almost 22 years into being a parent, right? And I'm grateful for the information, for being someone who has small children at this phase of my life, because I've lived, like, I've had some experiences. And now I can pour back into my children. I can share with them, look, I know how that story ends. Let me tell you how the story ends. You get an opportunity to either repeat that story or create your own story. But I wanted to stop the habit, or stop the, the, whatever you want to call it, the tradition of raping my children. I do not want to repeat the activities and the attitudes that the parent experienced. And that's why I do all these trainings. And that's why I've gotten all these degrees. And I am an advocate of personal development, because if we don't go through personal development, we are bound to repeat the mistakes of the past. You're going to repeat them. Unless you consciously shift that thing, you're going to repeat that. So I encourage each and every one of you to talk to someone, right? Get into some kind of group where you can learn how to show up better for yourself. I encourage you to uncover the skeletons in your family closet. Like, what are the things that emotionally trigger you, that's going on in the outside world, and you don't understand, like, why this person pisses you off so bad, or why you just don't click with this group, or when you show up at work, these individuals just irritate you. Maybe you're projecting your mother, your sister, your brother, your father onto those individuals. I encourage you to hire a coach, someone who's gone through social and emotional intelligence, not just somebody who's old enough or who says, sis, let me help you. Someone who is academically trained to deal with socially and emotionally triggered experiences. So I hope this has served you. I spent 2.5 years getting a degree in this, and it's liberating to know more about myself, so I don't have to make the same mistakes. And I can pass that information on. So could I feel embarrassed about what happened to me? I could. Or I could choose to use my story as a testimony for others, but also in a way to help serve my children so that they don't have to repeat the same mistakes that I have. Now, I try to protect them as much as possible, but something may happen. I mean, I don't wish that on them, but something may happen. But I promise you, I've built a relationship, a foundation with them to a point where I hope that they feel comfortable enough and confident enough to share with me, or if not me, some adult, what happened to them. And I encourage you to start to have those similar conversations with your children so you can change the narrative. So you don't have to rape your children. You don't repeat the attitude or the activities that the parent or the provider experienced. I am your girl, Dr. Tonya Biglow, AKA your CODA Coach, helping you move from stuck to success because you don't have to live in that mess. I want to say peace, bye-bye for now, and make sure you have a great day on purpose.